Welcome to Running in the 70s, where we interview, meet, and get to know athletes of all kind who were running in the 70s. I'm your host, Matthew Kleinowski. Welcome back. In part 2 with Ron Tabb, we'll talk about more adventures, history, up-to-date conversations he's had with lots of current runners. We'll talk about conversations he's having right now with some very famous runners, his coaching experiences, and a little bit about hurricanes. Enjoy.
You had great success both with the individual Mab there, it's the story you told, also as the small college national best team in the nation. You've been a bar owner.
That's how we ended up going back to Oregon. My wife's family, they were involved in the bar restaurant business. My wife's mom had open heart surgery. They asked if we could come up there and help them with their businesses. And I felt it was really hard for me to give up my job in San Diego because I felt like I was building my credentials to where I could be looking at maybe coaching at Oregon or at a major college. But your family comes first. I made the decision on my wife's behalf to give up my job after we moved back to Oregon. Plus, I really liked Oregon. I saw myself being back in Oregon. I thought maybe eventually I could get on with a school up there, maybe at Oregon, helping out as an assistant or something. That's how we got involved in the bar restaurant business was because of my in-laws. That's what they were doing. Then the neighborhood that we moved into, I had a young man that was a freshman at Pacific University. He came by because people in the neighborhood would see us running. They learned about my running. This student athlete, runner in the neighborhood, he said, I run at Pacific. I run track and cross country at Pacific University, and they're looking for a new coach out there. I talked to my wife. I said, Trace, they're looking for a coach out here in a little small school out in Forest Grove. We lived about 20 miles from Forest Grove. I said, I think I ought to put my name in the hat out there and see what might happen. I went out there and checked out the campus. We didn't even have a track or a cross country. I was going back to square one. Same thing that I was dealing with in San Diego with that school that didn't have a track or a cross country course. I talked to the athletic director and decided to put my name in the hat there. It's during the summer, and I was on my way to Europe for vacation. I gave them my contact information, and while I was going to be gone, I get a phone call, and they offered the job to me, and they offered me like $10,000. And I said, that doesn't even pay for my travel point out there. They are looking for head men's and women's cross country and head men's and women's track. And they have no assistants. They have no track, nothing. I wouldn't have even had an office.
So did you turn it down?
I'm going, it's a challenge. I've always taken challenges on. So I told him, I said, this is what I need to consider taking the job. I said, I'll take 20,000 to take it on. So I get out there and they had 8 kids total, that's between the men and the women. They had 8 total. I'm going, how am I going to do this? I can't even put a team together we're not going to have enough people to score for a team. It was work out of my car. That was my office to start off with because they were building a new facility. I took on the job and I had 3 girls and 4 boys to start off with. The first meet, I had to set a schedule up. And so got everything set up. The first meet that we go to, it's embarrassing. I didn't want to wear anything that said Pacific University because it was just an ugly situation. The coach at Linfield College was where the meet was. And he goes, Ron, it's impossible to make a chicken salad out of chicken shit.
It does sound like you regressed to 4 decades of what some other people would have gone through in the 70s before running was even a thing. That's amazing. So how did that progress? What happened there?
It ended up, we didn't have any national championships or anything like that, but I started getting kids qualified for the NCAA. They're a Division III program. I started getting athletes qualified 4 nationals in both cross country and track, getting all Americans, getting kids just to build a team to start off with was just my first goal. I wouldn't even call them in certain terms. I wouldn't even say that they were athletic. I'm now in my 40s or 50s, and I'm able to run with the team, with the best guys on our team. But we had, always trying to get guys to score and track. And in the second year, our team finished fourth at the conference meet. We had some good runners in the conference. We had Willamette University. We had University of Puget Sound. We had Whitworth College. Nick Simmons came out of that conference, who made the Olympic team in the 100. It was a pretty tough conference. Matt McGurk, who ran at Oregon, he was the coach at Willamette University. I didn't accomplish what I wanted to, and that was to have a national championship. I did have some athletes that finished in the second at nationals in track. My women's team, we finished 15th one year at the championship. And because of the success I was having building the program in 2008, they built a track at Pacific University. So started bringing recognition. They have a pretty decent program there now.
I got a pair of Adistar 2000s. Did you know those?
Yeah, were those right blue with the yellow stripes?
Yeah, they were magic. I got on the track. Muggleton beat Craig Virgin at a 2-mile indoor. So he was of that caliber.
Wow.
And I was with him at 3 laps, and then I just saw his back. And he then transferred to Division I Arkansas the next year. And I stepped in a hole at Malone, and my career was over.
Do you know a guy by the name of Mike Anderson?
I just saw his name. I don't know him.
Okay, I coach him. He's out of Atlanta. He's a master. He's pretty accomplished. He's like all of us that are in our 60s now. He's stubborn about resting, recognizing the value of taking a break and resting. And that gets so many runners in trouble, is the fact that they're unwilling to take a break and rest when they need to.
Yeah, these Edinburgh guys. There's a famous picture by the guy, Division II Nationals, maybe in Wisconsin. One of the Edinburgh guys was right behind the African guy that won it. It was Kevin Foley.
Kevin Foley, I know him too.
It's a famous picture. It's in the spread that they put in Runner magazine. But there was another guy there who ran in Pennsylvania, and he won the state championship when I was a freshman. So before I started running high school, he was just a bull. He was running 140 miles back then, and he's become a power lifter. Edinburgh, they had a very good program, and they were winning nationals with 18 points, 20 points and everything. So they're pretty dominant.
That is pretty dominant when you start.
Jeff Foster.
I know that name too. Yeah.
Yeah. He's now a power lifter, an age group power lifter. Bench press world champion. It's crazy. And Jeff says, I was in the wrong sport. I should have been doing this all my life. He's a big guy.
That's amazing. You look at Ryan Hall, another, that is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff was a 100-miler too. He did ultras for a while too. So it's just the mileage doesn't bother.
See, people ask me if I ever be interested in doing that. And I said, why? It's not in the Olympics. Why would you do a 100-mile race when it's not even an Olympic sport? Speaking of Olympic sports, did you see what the U.S. is talking about adding for 2028?
Flag football's in.
It's ridiculous. Are you serious? My Olympic team opportunity to coach a flag football team.
If you have time, I think you'll like it. Sam Bear was the guy who finished second to Jim Ryan on the indoor mile.
Was he in Indiana?
He went to Kent State. He took money. I don't know if it was Charleston or something. He won $1,500, and he was banned by the AAU. They made a poster shot out of him. He was banned for 5 years.
It's in the 70s?
Right around 70, 71. Yep.
So when they started that professional circuit,
he was part of that. And then right after it ended, they hadn't set up the trust funds and stuff. It's a good story. He still lives around Pittsburgh. Alex Case, I ended up, after I got hurt, then we had this little invitational at my college. I won the JV race, and then Ted Rope, Mark Hunter came and won it the next year, and they're Ohio runners. That led me to Larry Coy and a couple other these good over 4 minute milers, but a good. Some of them went to Division II, Division III, had good careers, and that, of course, led me to Alex Kasich, which is a nice.
Alex and I, we've got lots of stories. Because we were good, really good buddies. But politically, we are different ages.
Yeah, did you ever hear of the Hash House Harriers?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So I've been hashing. I do the
We talked
MC.
about it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I've been doing it forever, and there's a guy in New Jersey who's been hashing. He went to Seton Hall in the '60s. He made the U.S. national team that went behind the Iron Curtain. And you mentioned Jim McKay. Jim McKay announced the 800-meter race in Kiev in the dual meet, and we have the video. We have the dual meet of George German winning the 800 meters. 2 Americans, 2 Russians on the track. The second American had been hurt, so all he had to do is crawl across the finish line and get 1 point. But George German won, and I think it was the first track meet broadcast by ABC Sports from behind the Iron Curtain. So good story, Miss Cole.
No, Alex and I, after Dick Quacksback passed away, I called him up because Bill Dillinger and Alex and I, we were on a dart league together. We'd party at my house, I'd stay at his house when I come up to Eugene after I left to live in San Diego. So he'd stay. We're just really tight friends.
Another name, somebody you must know who I really enjoyed talking to, it was just a real pleasure, was Lorraine Moeller.
I don't know Lorraine at all.
Oh my God, I didn't know her at all. There's so many podcasts. It's really worth listening to. She is a very cool storyteller, and the name overlap. And because she's a Kiwi, Dick Quacks and her were made. She talks to Rod Dixon a couple days a week down he's back in New
I'm doing a
Zealand.
podcast with Rod.
Are you?
Ready? Yeah, we're getting ready to do New York. Yeah, but
He's still in New Zealand. Do you know?
back and forth from New
I
Zealand.
meant this month he was there because I was just down there. I was hiking and boating at Split Apple Rock where he is. And I was like, oh my God, I could have. So I'd love to talk to him too.
Yeah, we're doing Rod. Lorraine is actually going to be on this podcast, and I've never met her. Now, I've got to meet, and it's funny because some of these athletes, like Lorraine and Ann Audane, for example, and another one, she was up there just such a high level. You just don't you don't meet them. Plus, they're different shoe companies too. You ended up socializing with the people, the companies that you were sponsored by. Like Greta Waite, I got to know Greta really well because she was an Adidas athlete.
Right.
Because Ann, we're on the same we stand the same way politically. So she gave me a call recently and I'm going, I can't believe all these races that we've been to together and we just never crossed paths.
And Dane and Lorraine, they were all there at that first women's marathon.
Yeah. And also,
qualifier. So they're all buds. Yeah.
who was the other top New Zealand lady? She dated Randy Thomas.
Yeah.
Geez, I'm drawing a blank here.
Yeah, me too. Because the other one, that lady wrote a book too, and Lorraine's, it's not Rosamoto? No, that's not the Kiwi.
She was second in New York because Greta won all those years in a row. It's Anna. Oh, shoot. Yeah, we'll figure it out in a minute.
Yeah. She tells the good story where the 3 of them, and I guess Bill Rogers was there. I don't know if Frank would have been there when they all got together and said, we're all taking money tomorrow.
Oh, that was Cascade.
Yeah, the Cascade. That she tells that very good first person story of the night before, and then a couple weeks later where she was going to contaminate some British runners, and they all said, if you don't let Lorraine run, we're not running. Some great stories of the times in that.
Yeah. That era that we grew up with, the 70s and 80s, obviously, because we fall in that age group, the sport was so much. I think personally, I like the sport better then than I like it today. or I guess this is where we're going. But today you question so many of the results. You again, I'm looking at your background picture with the Nike shoes. The shoes today have assisted the athletes in a way that we could never have imagined when we were running. I've been told that I would have run 4 or 5 minutes faster wearing the shoes that they have today. I train in Saucony. The shoes I'm running in today or training in today, I could have run so many more miles and had so much more quality because I don't get beat up. The endorphin. And it's a really good training shoe. It also makes me tall now.
You mentioned as we were talking about the importance of rest. When did that first come in? You were running 20 miles a day for every day of the month at your peak, but what about rest days? Was that part of your training as racing or only as a coach?
No one would ever believe the way I train because I don't know anyone that has trained the way I trained back in the day. I didn't have a schedule to begin with. I had a plan that differed from having a daily schedule. As a coach, as a college coach, I break out, okay, here's what we want to do on such and such a day. Now, that was always subject to change based on how the week was going. But my running, I rarely, in the year I was fourth at the trials in 80, I was probably on the track that year, maybe a half a dozen times. Now, I did a lot of fartlek training, which basically is the same thing as being on a track, except you're not doing loops. When I lived in Houston, I had a course that I did it pretty much every day. I did the same course every single day. I didn't get bored with doing it. It was around, have you been to Houston before?
I don't work very much. It's the only place I go to work. I work at the Texas Medical Center, the medical school sometimes. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
from Rice.
you know Memorial Park then.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know where the Galleria is.
Okay.
Okay, so I live just less than a mile from the Galleria off of Westheimer. I lived at Fountain View in Westheimer, and this is where I bumped into Paul once because his family lived over in that area. I had a little condo, and I'd run from there to Memorial Park. Now, depending on how I felt, because I always ran how I felt. So if I felt good for 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row, I ran hard 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row. And those runs might be at 5:10 pace, 5:20 pace. And then when I hit the wall and I was tired and fatigued, then I would run 6 minute pace.
Yeah, you're right. Nobody.
And no one trains like that. No one has ever trained like that. I've never talked to anyone that trained the way I train. But I would go to Memorial Park, and that's a 3 mile loop there in the park. My goal was always to break 100 miles for the week. That was a given. That was my goal, was to get 100 miles in for the week. I'd also have a goal for how many miles I wanted to get for the month. My record is 580 miles in a June in Houston. And most of those miles were 540 or faster. So when I got into a race and running 5 minute pace, it wasn't anything for me to do that because I did it every day. And I'd get to the park and it was approximately 3 miles for me to get to the park. Then I would start off, okay, so first lap, I go back. That means out and back, that'll give me 9 miles. So then to add another one, that's a 12 mile run. Add another one on, it's a 15 mile run. Add another one on, it's 18. Another one, it's 21. So that's how I determined what I was going to do, how I felt on each lap. I knew that if I averaged 15 a day, that was 105 miles for the week. But that was an easy week for me. I even had weeks before my marathons where I was doing close to 90 miles. I really didn't even taper. My taper would be a couple of days where before the race might be a 7 or 8 mile run the day before. So my training is totally unorthodox, totally unique, and I don't even coach this way. It's completely different. I think that genetics has a lot to do with it. I often wondered if because I'm part Indian, not a lot, but part Indian, I look at Billy Mills, my idol, but I look at him and go, oh, maybe there's something to having some Indian in me that genetically helped me achieve what I achieved.
Yeah, with the Florida.
My wife and I both, we were just tired of the rain of the Northwest. I was never enamored with being in the bar business to begin with. My running and coaching and teaching has always been what I've enjoyed and got the most out of. Around 2000, right around when the economy tanked, 2006, I decided I wanted to start my own restaurant bar business. That's the name, Tabb Sports Bar and Grill. But I wanted it to be more of it's probably the first running bar outside the Elliott Lounge. I know there's some running bars around the country, but I'd have runners come in and I had a wall and I'd post pictures. Tom Fleming would come in, Bill Dillinger was there, it's just runners. And I had my running wall of fame at the sports bar. Oregon still had smoking back in the day. And so this was a completely non-smoking bar restaurant. It's also the best Kansas City Chiefs backer bar in the Northwest. So I incorporated the running and the football into the one. It was near Pacific University where I was coaching. So that was the whole idea with the Tabb Sports Bar and Grill and Pacific University. They tied in. But we started thinking about selling the business in 2000. I'm getting close to retirement age. And we wanted to go someplace where it didn't rain every day. And we went 1 year just before we left. It was almost 10 months where it didn't get above 70 degrees. We travel a lot, but you have to when you live in Oregon. My wife, she's a native Oregonian. She's from Eugene. And she goes, all right, get in the car and go find us a place somewhere between Texas and Florida. I thought there might be a job opportunity here in Fort Myers, where we live now, at Florida Gulf Coast University. They were looking for an assistant coach, but I think the lady that was the coach there was intimidated by my experience. I did apply for it, but I didn't get offered the job. But it's quite a few years older than her. She competed in California at community college while I was a coach there. So now I just coach athletes. I've got a young lady I coach actually in Pennsylvania, a high school kid that this girl's parents are friends with a friend of mine that went to school at the University of Oregon. While they were out there visiting during spring break last year, their daughter was an okay runner, but now she's becoming quite accomplished. And I think she could possibly break 210 this spring for the 8. I started coaching her online. I talk to her pretty much every day and have been writing her programs all summer long. And her coaches actually are okay with me writing the program because her team sucks so bad. And this girl's totally kicking butt right now too. But going back to the high school. So my high school days, one of the high school coaches there that was at Lexington, I'm from Lexington, Missouri, that was there. His grandson is a distance runner at the school where I attended, but he was a throw coach. But he said, you might want to reach out to this guy, Ron Tabb. He was on the track team there at Lexington. I still have the school record there, 956. Well, I'm now coaching this high school boy. I've been coaching him for 2 years now. I started working with him when he was in middle school. He's already won the conference meet last year in the mile. Then he got sick the next week, so he didn't get to qualify for the 2 mile. Anyway, I'm setting him up to break my record that I set over 50 years ago, which I think is a great story, because who gets to coach someone that preceded you? You have a record that was set more than 50 years ago. And his grandfather was on the coaching staff when I was there.
Wow.
It's just that
You may have to buy a plane ticket and go see that race in person. Huh?
I plan on, actually, I think they're going to come down here and train with me this winter. Training has gone really well for him. He's doing really well. He's won 2 invitationals this year. They have cross country program. He set the school record.
Your record's going to be history.
It's fun. I think potentially he's going to be a low 9-minute, 3,200 meter runner. What really set it off, where I really noticed that this kid's got some serious potential, was last spring. We did 8 times 300 and he averaged under 45 for the 300s with a 110 recovery. And I'm going, this kid's got some wheels. But he has to have his tonsils taken out after cross country because he's had bronchitis about 6 times since I've worked with him, or strep throat. And it just keeps cutting into his training. He's already had it this year where he's had to miss a couple of meets because of the strep throat. But even with that, he's done really well.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. Yeah,
This is so cool for me to be able to coach this kid whose grandfather was, I have a picture of his grandfather priming me at the finish of a 2-mile race there in Lexington.
that's fantastic.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Somebody needs to, that one's almost a movie itself.
That people, they should get on Good Morning America or something like that if he breaks that record. But I plan on being back there when he breaks the record because he'll get it this spring. He would have broke it last spring, except he got sick. And he missed almost after his conference meet where he won the mile, because we're going to run the district meet and run the mile and the 2-mile. Then he ended up getting sick and not being able to do it. He did get to go to state on a 4x8, but that wasn't what we were training for. Yeah, it's going to be fun seeing his name on the record board there. And it's been pretty fun coaching this little kid because he's done so well. He's made so much progress in the 2 years I've been working with him. So I get a thrill out of doing that. And we had, it was last spring. His name was Connor. I said, how would you like to talk to Olympic silver medalist? Because he knows who Mab. Yeah, of course. We put him on speakerphone, and he was just thrilled to death that he got a chance to pick Meb's brain and talk to Meb and see how his career got started.
It's really nice to hear you've changed a lot of lives and you've helped some amazing elite athletes get to their record setting and championship performances, and you're helping kids. It's really nice. Let me ask you about your relationship with Meb. I know it's got to be a great, solid relationship. Do you guys still talk?
All the time.
Talk strategy and trading still? With respect, he's a little bit better than you.
He's doing online coaching now too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we can help him there, no doubt.
Yeah, we still talk about training methods, and we were on a Zoom just last week. Bill and Craig Virgin was supposed to be on there, and he had to bow out at the last minute. But Benji, imagine this. You have Benji Durden, you have Bill Rogers, you have Meb Kefleski, and me. I'm the low man on the totem pole, but I'm going, Jesus, how would you, the public, the general public that are recreational runners, like to just weigh in on that conversation? Look at how many races have been won and medals and records and so on and so forth. Benji and Bill and I are talking about doing a podcast together. And that's what we have a meeting tomorrow. We're going to discuss doing a podcast, because on Facebook the other day, I posted that we were doing this little meeting and said, I can't believe all the people that are saying, oh, we paid to listen to that conversation. When you look at Bill and Benji and I, Meb can't do it because he's still involved in the sport and has sponsors to answer to. Some of the things might be a little bit controversial that we would discuss. Obviously, he's got to be aware or be very conscious of that. But Benji and Bill and I, when you look at us, we're retired. I'm still coaching individuals. Benji doesn't coach anymore, and I don't think Bill has really ever coached. There's more than 150 years of stories between the three of us, from Bill's first contract with ASIC that was $3,000 a year. $3,000. Can you imagine Bill Rogers only getting $3,000? Craig, for example, I was shocked because a buddy of mine that did our deals with Adidas, I was shocked at how little Craig made when he signed his initial contract with Adidas. I would have thought it would have been in the 6-digit figures, and it wasn't. Right after he left Athletics West and went to Adidas, he road race 2-time world cross country champion, 4-time Olympian. He was making less than $100,000 a year, a lot less.
What a weird time for the sport. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they can make that in a weekend.
You know, we can, oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So. Give us one bite. Okay. This sounds like it'll be a great podcast with the non-limitations of any active people in the conversation. And you could have a few guests on there, but without breaking confidence or getting anybody in trouble, just how concerned is the 70s and veteran running community about what's happened with marathon times.
The reason we had this discussion, we were talking about that, the questionable performances. And I'd say a lot of these performances are questionable because of the testing or lack thereof testing, because a lot of the athletes, they're not accessible. Science has also become so, there are things that you can do, and none of us ever cheated. All of us were clean in the sport, which makes me feel much better about at discussing the 70s and 80s, because Bill and Bench and I, we were clean. We did it the way it needed to be done, even though I know that there were some athletes that didn't do it cleanly. I know Meb was clean and he's adamant about the sport needs to be a clean sport. So ethically, all of us are right for the sport, but there's some things going on that we all have some concerns about. Having access to these athletes when they need to be tested, when they're out of season, it's really hard to do that in certain countries. Why are the Americans not more competitive on the world stage? Maybe that has something to do with the science. I don't know, but I don't think any of us know the answer to that.
Yeah, no, but there will be stories there and unfolding, and probably it's a good time to get some of the discussion made. The chatter on just the generic runner fan group and amateur running has not paid that much attention to it. Of course, they talk about the shoes, but it isn't reaching the level of concern of,
Yeah, everyone wants to, even I do. I like to believe that these times, everything that they're doing is legit. But when you have a woman running under 212 for the marathon, I only have 5 marathon times in my career that are faster than that. And Bill said he might have 8 or 9 times. Is it legit? I know the shoes have made a difference, but is it the shoes alone? I'm just going to refer to Lance Armstrong, how many years he went before he got popped.
it was being tested forever. I was at the 2000 Sydney Games as a journalist, and I got to stand right in front of Marion Jones
I was just going to Terry and Jones.
and dearly, boy, I cannot be a lie detector. I believed her.
Yeah.
Protest. Yeah.
Yeah. Marion Jones, and look at a record in Flojo.
Yeah. It's a pity. It's a pity that some of those older things that are apparent, nothing can be done at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's true, but I heard that more than half of the 88 Olympic team tested positive before the Olympics. And they were just told to clean up their act before they got to Seoul. Is that true? I don't know. But that's why I think the golden era of running was the 70s and 80s and maybe even before, because I think those times, yeah, they were on cinder tracks, they were on dirt tracks. Yeah, so the times are slower, but at least they were. Glenn Cunningham, who ran for Kansas, who ran 406. He did it with 1-inch spikes on a dirt track. Now you look at Serpinski, and we know that he cheated, and he still gets to keep his gold medal. It's disheartening. You Krachatulova from
That's an insane. That's an insane record to still keep. Yeah.
Yeah, we know that she was using something. We don't know exactly what it was, but we know that so many of these athletes that were cheating and have records and have taken medals from other people and also kept other people from being on the podium.
Yeah.
There was a lady, Regina Jacobs, and she was with Balco. I know that a couple of people missed Olympic teams and records because of people who are associated with Balco. If you're associated with Balco, you got something going on.
It's definitely a part of the history of sports and the history of the sport of running. The developing story isn't written yet.
I hope these times that we're seeing, I hope they're legit, that this is my personal, I just have questions. We were talking the other day, there's EPO that if you take it in smaller portions, that in one day that you're doing a hard workout and then the next day it's out of your system. Is that true? I don't know. I've heard that, but I don't know that it's true. And if it is true, who's doing it or who isn't doing it? There's a lot of questions. And the shoes make a difference going from where for a couple of decades, if you're running 205 to 210, you were considered a world class athlete.
Yeah. Now you're 2 miles behind.
You're 2 miles. Yeah. You're 2 miles behind. I'm going, really? I always thought that I thought Mary could be the first woman to break 2 hours and 20 minutes because of the way she trained and she did it cleanly. And then how all of a sudden now that's almost the standard to be considered for an Olympic medal. You've got to be under 215 to be in contention for an Olympic. On the men's side, what are we going to see at the Olympics? And I just think the sport has got to be cleaner than what it is. There needs to be a better system of making sure that the people that are involved in the sport are clean. Also, our race directors making sure that these athletes are clean when they're coming in. And is there a way to collect that money back after they've already been awarded? Because a bunch of them now have collected prize money and received appearance money, and they've been plopped down the road. This is the bad part about this plot is that we've just talked about the history of the sport and discussed why we love and are so passionate about the sport. But then you look at it and you question ethics of the sport and how clean the sport is. And that's the part about this that I don't like. I want to believe that everyone is doing it. I wouldn't have wanted to be running against cheats. And I know that I did, but I think for the most part, most of the people that I competed with were clean athletes. I ran against Sapinski though, and at the World Championships. And was he clean by then? Who knows? I don't know. We know he wasn't in 76 when he won in Montreal.
Yeah. Change history.
Yep.
Just a little bit of chemical history. Yeah.
The truth though.
I didn't do this to focus on elite athletes. People talks about Craig Virgin, and that brings up, you expressed it well, but he was another person who the Olympic boycott in 80 really maybe changed the history of U.S. running. Craig Virgin has a great record, but Olympic gold's not on that resume, and it may very well have been. And politics.
Yeah, exactly. A friend of mine that lived in Houston while I was training there, he's a decathlete. You're talking about your friend that was a decathlete and was on the 80 team or 84 team. A guy by the name of Bob Kaufman. But Bob was the #1 ranked decathlete in the world prior to 1980. As a result, he would have been, I'm going to say the next first gender, but maybe not quite the next.
Not that whole story. Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
But
Yeah.
that could have been an Olympic champion, and that changes your whole entire life if you're an Olympic champion. Winning the Boston Marathon changes your life. But I can see that I understand why people would cheat today, especially if you're coming from Africa. Winning one race will change your entire life financially because of how poor the country is.
Yeah. As you're talking from that perspective, one race might change your extended family, maybe your village's life. It's insane. The pressure and the opportunity and the temptation has got to be insane.
It has to be. Here in America, we're not faced with those same dynamics. That's probably one of the reasons that we don't seem to be able to compete at that level is because I can go out and get a job after I'm done with college and support myself and support my family. And if you're, as we know, coming from Kenya or another country that doesn't have the means that we do, it changes. It can be a life altering moment for them that makes their life better. So why not gamble? Are you really gambling by taking that chance? If you're coming from where you make almost nothing.
And you're not going to go to jail. You might lose some opportunity, but usually it's not something that's a criminal offense.
No, you just get banned. You get banned.
Let me ask you one more thing, because of your perspective of running from more than 50 years ago through coaching now, the whole world has changed. America has changed. The opportunities for young athletes to pick which sports they compete in. How has that affected you? Let's say in Fort Myers in the recent coaching, what's your crop of athletes?
The boy that I'm coaching in Missouri, one of the things that I really had to get past was he's a all around athlete. He's good in baseball. He's good in basketball. His grandfather is a Hall of Fame football coach and he wants to play football. He's good at all these sports. But this year, I finally got him to recognize this because he looks at other athletes that are running in front of him and seeing that they are not playing basketball, they're not playing football, they're not playing baseball. His main focus now becoming a distance runner. So he's not playing football this year. He's not going to play basketball, and he isn't going to play baseball. In this day and age, I believe that you need to specialize in a sport. If you're going to be a basketball player, you need to focus on basketball, so on and so forth with whatever it is that you're doing. I have a young lady that I'm working with here in Fort Myers, a high schooler. Her mom reached out to me because they're not happy with her coaching situation on the track team. So they've asked me to work with her. So I said, let consider it. Tell me a little bit about her background, what she's doing. Last year as a sophomore, she ran 220 for the 800. She's run 58 for the 400, and she has run 27 for the 200. So this girl's got some wheels, but she doesn't want to do cross country. And like I said, I don't cross country personally. I always viewed cross country in college as a necessary evil to get ready for track because that's where my passion lies. I've been working with this young lady, and what we're doing is we're building the base and foundation this fall during her cross country season. So she isn't going to do cross country. But then she just informed me last week, I'm going to do soccer though. And soccer is going to be coming up here in a few weeks. And I'm going, God, I got this athlete that she's a junior now. I just started working with her this summer. If I could work on her base and foundation before we get started with track season in January, and when we start doing our speed, that this girl could potentially, who knows how fast she could become. Now I've got to work around a soccer schedule, and soccer athletes tend to make good track people, but how are we going to do both of these sports at the same simultaneously? I have to figure out how I'm going to balance that schedule this winter when she's doing soccer and we're trying to get her ready for a track season.
Thanks for your time, Ron. Hopefully we'll talk again. If topics come up, we could do some more blurbs. I want to ask you one more thing on the personal side about what happened in the Fort Myers area with the crazy storm surge in there. Did that affect you?
Yes. Last year with Ian, my wife, she's a bartender at the beach, and it's no longer there. Got in someplace out in the Gulf of Mexico. We have a couple places, but there are other places we didn't have any issues at all. So we're far enough away. But we're lucky. We was talking about this morning because we're talking about a place at the beach that we were considering buying. And the storm surge at the beach last year for Hurricane Ian was 18 feet. It would have, the place that we were looking at buying as for an investment, it's no longer there either. It's pretty sad. You go to the beach here. We have friends coming in this week, coming over from Switzerland, and we're going, I don't know where to take them now because the beach, it's not the beach anymore. It's there. There were literally monster shrimp boats that were inland because of the water. The storm surge came up so high. It was really bad here, and it's still bad. We're still recovering. There's some places that have reopened at the beach, but they're mostly in tents. Bars and restaurants, they're working out of tents. Almost everything has had to be redone because no hotels are open yet. There's not one hotel open at the beach yet. There are a few bars and restaurants that have opened back up, but again, most of those are in tents. The one that my wife works, it's high enough that it wasn't affected as much, but it didn't open up. It took several months before it opened back up.
It's good to hear you guys survived.
Yeah,
We're home survived. Yeah.
not so many, not a lot of places didn't. They weren't as lucky.
My wife and I had reservations in Malachet,
Oh, really?
and we booked it right before Ian. So we still flew into Fort Myers, but we went across the state for somewhere else. I've lived in Florida myself. I still have a house in Clearwater from the 80s before I went overseas for a long time. Someday when Malachet repairs, that's still a place I'd love to.
I don't know if we haven't been back over there since the hurricane, but they just got crashed over there too. You know, Meb lives in Tampa now, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Meb. So you asked me about my relationship with Meb. We don't have kids. And so Meb is in charge of our estate once something happens. That just shows you how
Look, you are.
he's like my adopted son. We're really close. We get together. We talk all the time. And we were together at a reunion back in July in California. And we just real close to his family. He's a soccer dad now. And one of his daughters runs cross country. And that's got to be interesting because he doesn't coach his daughter. And he knows more than the coach does. That,
Yeah, just one more Olympic medal than him, too. Yeah.
yeah, probably more than likely. Yeah.
That's
But
great.
he gets down here quite a bit. He'll come and stay with us, but he's anxious. He wants to get back to California. They still have a home in San Diego. They moved to Tampa because his wife's parents live in Tampa.
Hmm.
And so she wanted to get back and be close to the parents. So what the wife wants, the wife gets.
Yeah, sure. I
That's
may
why-
be down there. Yeah, my little rental, I probably have to do a change over next April, May. So I may go down there and,
If you get down in our area, let's get together.
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I can tell you that some of these names that you've heard and I mentioned will listen to this. The Edinburgh guys all listen to all these podcasts.
Uh-huh.
They certainly liked hearing all their teammates. Doug Watts, who was the coach of Edinburgh, who won a few national championships with Kevin Foley and Dave Antagnoli. He started the program back then. He'll listen to them and say he really likes them. It's a small audience, but it is runners that are listening to this. But it's hard to get women who were running in the 70s. One, there weren't that many.
Yeah, that's it. It's the women's. People don't realize that the Olympic marathon for women only happened in 1984.
Yeah.
And the longest race in the Olympics, I don't know what it was in Moscow.
I think it was 1500.
Right around 1500.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had the 3000 in 80.
They didn't.
So they didn't have it in
Oh,
84. You didn't have the 5 or the 10. You had the 15 and the 3 in the marathon.
Yeah.
And no steeplechase. So it's great to see that the women's no pole vault. The sport has just changed for the good, for the better. In that sense, the sport has changed, and that's been a good change. The only thing I have, we were talking the other day. Was it Craig and I talking about this, or Benji and I, or I can't remember, but we were talking about the new shoe, the super shoe. He said the super shoe should have been designed only for training and not used for racing. I can't remember who I had the conversation with, but that was their opinion. I'm going, I'm not sure where I stand on that, if it's good or bad for the sport, but it's like changing from a cinder track to an all-weather track. Because we run our Olympics always on cinder tracks.
That won't go over now that people are getting $100,000 to run. No.
Exactly.
The parallel with swimming. With
that's
the water repellent suits.
Yeah.
There's got to be, all got to come back in as swimming. You don't hear so many doping cases in swimming, but you do hear about the equipment.
Yeah. Oh, so they banned that. That actually came up in a conversation recently too. I wasn't even aware of that with the swimsuits that they now are banned from international or all competition, or just international competition.
I think national level, and it's country by country. It's all international and it's country by country. Most countries don't.
So are records allowed, or how does that work?
I think any records set with them, most of them have, but now been broken. So it's not an issue. No new records will be.
I don't pay attention to the swimming. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I just pay attention at the Olympics, but it was in that 1-2 year period when everything seemed to happen. That's an interesting thing. Could the shoes just be limited on certified record events, championship events. Yeah.
It's too late now.
Yeah. It's out of the box. Yeah.
It's going to be hard to go back and make any changes to it. But I don't mind the shoes. Yeah, I'll always wonder how much better I would have been wearing those shoes. But then again, how much better would Santa have done wearing these shoes too? They're going to have the same argument. They would have done better as well.
Yeah. I put those Adastars on, and I think I knocked 3 seconds off my mile time that day. And I thought,
Yeah,
that was the best $50 I ever spent.
Yeah. You can't even buy anything for $50 running wise now. You can't even get a pair of shorts for $50. When I lived in Houston, I was partners with a guy. He was at the backer, but he was the money behind it, but had a running store there. And this was in 78, 79, and 80. We carried Nike and Adidas, which carried everything. We got these shoes in. They're called a Nike Tailwind. You probably remember it. It was a silver shoe. It's the first air sole shoe.
Wow.
And it came in at, was it $40 a pair or $50? But it was back then, that was a lot of money to spend on a pair of running shoes. And now you're talking about that Adidas shoe, and it's 500 pounds for a pair of shoes that you're going to wear one time. That's crazy.
Was it a Fidippity store or?
No, it was called the Running Shop. It was a family owned, independent. It was just this guy. Are we being recorded right now?
I am. I can turn it off if you want.
Okay.
I'll edit this stuff properly, but let me.
Well, this you need to, you got to make
me-
sure this isn't being recorded.
Oops. At that point, Ron Tabb decided to go off the record. So that's all we got today. Maybe someday we'll have some excerpts of that. I hope you enjoyed episode 2 with Ron Tabb. I hope you enjoyed another episode of Running in the 70s. Voices, stories, and memories of athletes who were running in the 70s. Until next time, wherever you are, keep looking forward and don't forget to look back.